MSNBC host Lawrence O'Donnell has had it. He is fed up with the way that the media is covering Donald Trump and his 2024 campaign. And he specifically focused on Donald Trump's press conference that he had at Mar-a-Lago yesterday. And he got so frustrated in the middle of this segment that he threw his paper down on the table out of anger. And I think that a lot of us can sympathize with that anger because whenever Donald Trump has a campaign rally, a speech, a press conference, the media often does not fact check him. He lies about some of the most important topics in America, our institutions, and he just kind of gets a free pass to do it. It is 2016 all over again, and that was the point of Lawrence O'Donnell's segment last night. So I have two clips to show you from this. Both are equally fantastic. The first clip I want to show you is Lawrence O'Donnell specifically making that point, that the media is making the same mistakes with Donald Trump that they made in 2016. This is great, so take a look.
And absolutely no comment from the reporters who were allowed to throw questions at him today about how could you possibly flip-flop like that? Well, it was 2016 all over again today. Donald Trump spoke at his home in Florida for over an hour, and all of the cable news networks, including this one, carried it live, just like they all did repeatedly in 2016. It would be hard to find a sentence in what Donald Trump said today that did not include at least one lie. Some of the networks tried to play catch-up with fact-checking after Donald Trump finished speaking, but that, of course, is way too late and utterly useless. No network even attempted to fact-check every lie Donald Trump told. Every network has the capacity, especially with these wide screens we now have at home, to run a live scroll at the side of the screen, fact-checking many of Donald Trump's lies. Not all of them, that would be impossible, but many of them as he speaks. For example, when Donald Trump said, quote, Kamala Harris is not smart enough to do a news conference, the networks could have simply put on the side of the screen, Kamala Harris is a graduate of Howard University and University of California Hastings College of Law. Of course, Donald Trump proved once again today that he is not smart enough to do a news conference by saying something that was provably false in every response he gave to every single question. Most of those were knowing lies by Donald Trump. But many of the falsehoods Donald Trump spread today in his responses came from that vast well of stupidity that takes up most of his brain. The stupidest person who has ever won a nomination for president stood there in front of those reporters and said his opponent isn't smart enough to do what he was failing at right in front of those reporters. And to make a bad news coverage situation worse, none of the networks, none of them, carried Kamala Harris's speech live after the Trump appearance. None of them.
So that was fantastic. I love his quote near the end there, that Donald Trump reaches into the vast well of stupidity that he has in his brain to answer some of these questions. I mean, genuinely very funny stuff, but also very true from Lawrence O'Donnell. He made a lot of really important and great points right there. Mainly that, like, this is 2016 again. Why are we making the same mistake? Why are we treating Donald Trump like we don't know who he is and we've never seen a Trump campaign before? Because we do know who he is and we've seen multiple Trump campaigns now. Why are we pretending that we haven't? Why are we just going back to what we did in 2016 where we give him this huge platform on every single media outlet, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, on both sides of the aisle so he can get up there and lie? It makes no sense. And look, there's a solution here. There's a solution. I understand that media outlets believe that it's important to cover Donald Trump's events because he is the Republican nominee for president. That is fine. I totally get it. But then if you're going to do that, include some fact checking. We know Donald Trump's typical lines. We know it. So have some graphs and something to scroll on the screen beforehand that, hey, the election wasn't stolen, that, hey, the Department of Justice is not specifically targeting Donald Trump, that abortions are not happening after the 9th month, things of that nature. We know Donald Trump's regular lies. So why aren't we adjusting for that? Why aren't people making those adjustments beforehand? Why not? Have it on the bottom of the screen. Our screens are big enough now. We have the technology to do it. These media companies have the resources to do it. Why not? Please, please, we must start fact-checking Donald Trump. We know that Fox News is not going to do it. We know that Newsmax is not going to do it. I'm not asking for them to do it because they're too far gone, right? Anybody that's watching Fox News or OANN is very open and willing to believe Donald Trump's lies without question, all right? But on some of these better news outlets, which they are better, MSNBC, CNN, ABC, fact check Donald Trump. Please fact check him. And I also love his point there about, look, Donald Trump is just not smart enough to answer these questions in depth. So we have to stop pretending that he is. We have to stop expecting something out of these press conferences, that he's going to say something profound, that he's going to reveal a new and groundbreaking policy that we've never heard from Donald Trump before. We have to stop pretending that that's the case. As Lawrence O'Donnell just said, and as we just spoke about, at every opportunity, Donald Trump reaches into that well of stupidity that he has in his brain to answer some of these questions. We have to stop pretending that there's going to be a different result. We know what he's going to say, so let's please adjust and please fact check Donald Trump. And finally, I also loved his point about Kamala Harris's speeches. If you're going to carry Trump speeches, carry Kamala Harris speeches. Please. Every media outlet out there, you carry Trump's press conference. I get it. As I mentioned, he's a Republican nominee for president. Fine. But if you're going to do that, carry the Democratic nominee for president speeches as well. Because Kamala Harris gave an amazing speech in Detroit, Michigan yesterday at the UAW union in front of union members, where she talked about the hard work, the dignity that comes with the job and things like that. That's important. It's good for Americans to hear. I talked about it on this channel. It'd be nice if a lot of media outlets would do the same. So that's the first clip I want to show you. The second clip is where Lawrence O'Donnell takes his paper and throws it down. And what he does in this clip is he reads a direct quote that Donald Trump gave at this press conference yesterday when he was asked a tough question, a good question that he just does not have the ability to answer. It's really, really well said by Lawrence O'Donnell, and I think it's worth a watch. Take a look.
When Donald Trump was asked a good question by NBC's Garrett Haake. Question: would you direct the FDA to revoke access to mifepristone? Here is what Donald Trump said to that yes or no question, which no matter how many times you read this answer, is not an answer. Trump: sure, you could do things that would supplement, absolutely. And those things are pretty open and humane. But you have to be able to have a vote. After all, all I want to do is give everybody a vote. And the votes are taking place right now as we speak. But it's there are many things on a humane basis that you can do outside of that, but you also have to give a vote. And the people are going to have to decide. The words Donald Trump spoke to those reporters in response to that clear, simple, and important yes or no question were an insult to everyone in that room, and they took the insult. Nothing in those words was an answer, nothing. Donald Trump did not answer questions today. Don't let anyone tell you that lie, that Donald Trump answered questions. He did not. He never does. Anyone who tells you that Donald Trump answered reporters' questions is lying to you. And anyone who tells you that is not smart enough to know what an answer is. Donald Trump is not smart enough to answer questions. Anyone who then tells you that Kamala Harris has to answer questions from reporters because Donald Trump already answered questions from reporters is lying to themselves and to you, and you must not allow them to do it. Please crush them on social media when they do it, because they will do it.
Yeah, I mean, when he threw that paper down, I felt that. I really did. I really did, and I think you did too, of just this anger, this frustration with what is this guy saying? What is he saying? What is he talking about? That is not coherent. That is not an answer to a good question on, are you going to further restrict women's reproductive rights? And he says that nonsense. That's not coherent. That's not an answer. And Lawrence O'Donnell is right. Donald Trump did not answer a question. Yesterday, he did not answer a question. when he's asked something like that, he goes on a tangent. He goes to talk about immigrants or people of color or Joe Biden or Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton. He does not answer these questions. We don't know where Donald Trump stands on a variety of these policies. We can take a guess that, of course, he's going to further restrict women's reproductive rights because his history tells us that. But he does not answer these questions directly for one reason or another. Maybe he knows it's because his policy is unpopular and that would further hurt his campaign. Or maybe, as Lawrence O'Donnell also has stated, Donald Trump is just not smart enough to answer these questions. Maybe he doesn't know what mifepristone is. Maybe he doesn't know that that is the most common medication for an abortion regimen for women in this country. Maybe he doesn't know that. It could be both. It could be one or the other. I think they're both equally as likely. But he can't answer these questions. He's simply not smart enough. And the worst part about it is his supporters, and I don't say all Republicans, because I have friends that are Republicans who are not voting for Donald Trump, but his supporters specifically who bow down to everything he says and they love him are not smart enough to know that he is lying to their faces. They do not know. They don't know it. They every word that he says, they hang on to it, and they believe that he is the Messiah, that everything he preaches is 100% true, when it's not. He is lying to their face, and they thank him for it. And Lawrence O'Donnell is right to point that out. It's so remarkable. And like, just go back to the original point that why aren't we fact-checking this stuff? We understand that Fox News is not going to, but why aren't the better media outlets? Why aren't these really amazing journalists out there who work at these media outlets doing that? We have to start. And the final thing I'll say is another point that Lawrence O'Donnell made that I fully agree with, which is these Republicans are now pretending that Kamala Harris has to have a press conference because Donald Trump had a press conference. They're saying, well, if Donald Trump can get up there for an hour and answer questions, then Kamala Harris should too. Now, listen, I think Kamala Harris should have press conferences, no doubt. But it should not be for the reason that Donald Trump had one. That should not be the reason that she gets up there and has a press conference, because Donald Trump is not answering questions. That is not a reason for Kamala Harris to answer questions. You don't get to get Donald Trump to go up there for an hour and do that and then say, well, he did it. He answered questions. So now it's your turn. No. Getting up there and lying for an hour is not answering questions. And any Republican out there that uses that as a justification to bash Kamala Harris because she's too busy talking directly to voters and having these huge rallies, they should be put in their place. They should be argued with and fact-checked, and that should be the case. As Lawrence O'Donnell said, if you see these people on social media and they're saying, well, Kamala Harris is too scared to have a press conference, Donald Trump does it, correct them, saying, no, Donald Trump did not have a press conference. He had a lying session. He had no unfiltered lies and no pushing back. That's what he had. No press conference. No answering of questions. At a press conference, you answer questions. Donald Trump did the exact opposite. So I just have to say thank you to Lawrence O'Donnell, and truly thank you to all of the amazing journalists out there who are doing that work. I just hope we see more of it. Because genuinely, there are really, really talented people out there who work in this field who are doing this work. We just need more of it, and hopefully we can have that. Maybe Lawrence O'Donnell have inspired people to do more of it. So anyway, I just had to show you these clips. They're so fantastic. Such a fan of Lawrence O'Donnell. I'm going to wrap up the video there. Make sure to subscribe down below. It goes such an incredibly long way. Also, drop a like on the video and comment. Let me know what you think about this segment. I'm excited to hear from you. And as I always say, I greatly appreciate you, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.